made the decision that I wasn't going to be sort of tolerating anymore. It was very scary. You know, when you know that you've got a 6-week-old baby. Again, I wasn't driving at that point. I wasn't working at that point because I decided, obviously, to leave. And at that point, I felt what I thought was going to be happening was that I was going to be spending time raising, my children. I wanted to see the first steps, etc. Obviously, I only had the one at that point, but that's what I thought was going to be happening. And to an extent, I had myself to blame for allowing that to happen.
How long had you been with him, by the way, before this happened? How long had you been with him for?
Oh, it was 5 years before I had my son. I know that. So it wasn't that I'd rushed into having, a child straight away, but I was still young. So I think I was around 24. I think I was about to turn 25 in the January. My son was born in the December. And I was about to turn 25 in January. So 25, 6-week-old baby, and this nightmare happening around me. Again, no work at that point. But I guess in one respect, it didn't worry me as too much because, again, there's always sort of family, extended family, and what have you. But the moment this decision came about, that's it. It shut the doors everywhere. It was now just me and my son. So, again, I guess I had to sort of put that sort of thinking hat on and go, right, Val, you better start planning here. You better start thinking about what you're going to do. And something that I always knew and kept telling myself, even though I didn't have the answers at the time, I just kept repeating to myself, it is not going to stay like this. It is not going to remain this way. Things will change. Things will improve. But I guess I already was telling myself, well, look, sort of like when you're weighing things up, and you're going, right, okay, well, your son's 6 weeks old, highly dependent on you. Okay, so at this moment in time, what's top priority? It's going to be my son, the well-being of my son. So at that point, I thought, right, sole focus, raising my son, just in the best way that I possibly can. Be that on benefits, okay, because I can't go out. It's not like I've got a babysitter or money for a babysitter. I can't go out and work at the moment. Also, my son is far too young. Didn't want to be leaving him with any form of babysitter at that time. So it was just a case of be a mum, Val. Just be a mum. That's all you can do at this moment in time. When it's just yourself, it's not so important. But when okay, you have to feed your son. You have to, get nappies. You have to clothe your child. And at that young age, they are rapidly changing in size. So, a baby grow that fit last week doesn't fit this week. So much expense. And I'm looking at the system and I'm thinking, God, what are they giving even for benefits? This is not, how people can live or even survive. It's just not doable. So there were many a times I found myself getting myself into so much debt because of it. Because I couldn't afford to pay that. It was just, look, I've got to do what's needed right now and worry about that at another time. But, the debt was increasing, bills weren't getting paid. For very, very, worrying times. At points, many a times I wasn't able to even have a proper meal. It was all about making sure that my son had what he needed, cup of tea, biscuits, literally not wanting to touch, some fish fingers because it's like, no, those are gross. That's for my son. I'll have a biscuit. It's horrible. When I look back and I think about it, I don't wish to sort of think back on those times naturally, but I cannot describe the hell, the nightmare, that I was going through. I even at that point, I remember losing faith, and I'm not, I would say, deeply religious, but I always had faith, but at a time in my life going through all of this, endless days where I would be crying myself to sleep, and this, I'm not telling you this to sort of have pity or have anybody feel sorry for me. This is literally, exactly what it was like. I'd be sort of looking up and, talking to what I am thinking is God. I'm having my words with him going, what are you doing? What have I done? What have I ever done so wrong to deserve this? More importantly, I've just brought my son into this world. You've brought my son into this world. What has he done to deserve this? How can there be a God? How can you be doing this? There was so much, and I'm even feeling it now as we're talking about it. There was so much, going on back there that I was just like, I must have been an awful person in my past life if I'm having to sort of pay the consequence of that life in this life. That's all I could come to, trying to find the reason behind what the hell was happening, why I was being tortured that way. It was just unbelievable. And then I recall my mother being on the phone. I was almost tempted at one point to give in because my ex-husband at the time was still very much sort of, saying, oh, I'm sorry and this, that. And despite how many sort of, times I'd forgiven him previously, again, like I said, when my son was born, that was the final straw. He was like constantly saying, look, please, can we be a family? Can we do this? Can we do that? Everything will change and it will be okay. And I knew in my heart it was the wrong thing to do. But even I became very weak. And I remember speaking to my mum one day and I was literally on my knees. I was bawling on the phone saying, Mum, he wins. He wins. Fine. I'll get back together with him. If it means that my son has a roof over his head and food in his mouth, so be it. I'll live my life in hell for the rest of my life. But as long as my son's safe, my mom did what mothers do. And she put me right. And she just went, stop crying. Go and wash your face. Wipe those tears. Because you are not going to do that. You're going to stand up. You're going to get on your feet. Okay? And everything is going to be fine. Why? Because you are strong. You are our daughter. There's more to you than that. There's so many powerful sort of words that she spoke to me that day. And the funniest thing is when I remind her of that today, she went, did I say that? But she just really pulled me in line to go, oh no, you don't. You are going to get through this. And thank God I listened to the advice, and I think sometimes when you have that good cry, it allows you to, I think it's the crying that makes you become avoiding letting out that emotion can weaken you. And once you've let it out, you kind of feel like a bit of relief, and you can sort of look at things from a fresh perspective again and go, right, okay, you know what? Yeah, you can do this, Val. You can do it. So yeah, it was one of those moments where it was like, get back up and you dust yourself off and you keep going, you know. And then from there, I just thought, you know what? Okay, Belle, you know, whatever, it takes 3 years, 2 years before my son can go to, you know, nursery or the first stages of school, where I can maybe look at getting a part-time job. Whatever it is, you are just going to have to deal with things the way they are now, okay, and wait for your time to be able to get up and make your move, you know, because you know you can, but there's obviously this element in your life here where you just can't. This is not the right time for you, you know. So that's what I did. I just plowed on through, you know, every day, getting those warning letters, you know, and going, oh my God, am I going to get kicked out of my house that I'm renting at the moment? But I was lucky also to have a really supportive landlord at the time as well. And I think everything was a bit obvious to him as to what was going on. So thankfully, he was very patient with me. But yes, then through the time, although I thought I would never, ever, ever get married again, it just so happened that I think when my son was almost turning 4 years of age, I met my current husband, Suki, and I never thought I could trust another person, especially, you know, with my son, and would they ever treat them like their own, etc. I also thought I'd never have children again, but obviously I have a second son as well. But yes, he was, you know, a ray of light. He definitely, I didn't think it was possible that somebody could treat my son as their own, you know. And I always thought to myself, I don't care if they don't love me as long as they love my son. That's the big thing to me. That's all that matters. And yeah, so yeah, Suki came into my life. We later married. We later had another child. And again, although things were difficult, and obviously I then went on to sort of trying to find work here or there, part-time if I could. Unfortunately, my husband was really unlucky. You know, was going through a time where, you know, God knows how many companies were closing, and I guess we're going through that now as well. But you know, he'd sort of be able to find a great job, and then the company's making everybody redundant again. You know, and it was really, really sort of tough testing times back then too. To the point that I felt guilty. And you know, sometimes when you feel you've got so much you know you can do, but you just don't have an opportunity to be able to get out there and do it, make it happen. Not saying that somebody else couldn't, but I knew always there was this hunger, there was this thing inside of me waiting to get out and shine again and go, this is what, there's more to me than just Val, the mother, that's it. As much as I love being a mother, and I would never ever, you know, change that for the world. But I just knew there was more always to me. I had a lot to offer, you know, and like I said, through the really tough times that we were going through, I was even working in a chip shop, believe it or not. And I did that again. It's all my life skills sort of that I've had rolled in one. Whilst I was waiting to apply for the police force, my father opened, well, he bought a chip shop. And he had me trained up by my uncle, who also owned a chip shop. So I already knew that trade as well, you know. So I thought, right, work. I saw a sign. I was like, I could do this, you know, but it's money. It's money at the end of the day. So this is what we need. I don't care what it is, as long as it's going to help pay the bills. So I would be doing some evening shifts. When my husband would then come back from work, I could then pop out and do a few hours at the local chippy, and you know, with just a bit of extra cash coming through then. So when again people look at me today and think, oh, she's all prim and proper, drives a nice car, picture me scrubbing pans in the back of the chippy as well. You know, I was prepared to do that. You know, and it was at that point again slowly that I thought, right, okay, son's in school. My youngest was able to then go to nursery. And I thought, right, I need to look for work. As I was still doing my night shifts, I was still continuously looking for work. And then I can't remember where I saw it, but I knew that the vacancy was going at this estate agency. And although I'd never, ever worked in the property industry before, my sort of philosophy is, one thing that I have done, because I did my business administration as well. So I thought, you know what, I've done business administration, I've managed offices, I've churned out managers. So I already have the skills, I have experience. So it doesn't matter what industry is, because they all tend to have that common ground still, and then you get to know the industry afterwards. But there's still sort of the basics that are applied in every business, So I thought, right, let me just go for this. And again, as I already told you earlier, initially they were telling me that I was overqualified, but I had to sort of fight my way and say, look, that's only going to work to your benefit. I'm not going to ask for more pay, so you're going to benefit more, but I really, really need this job, and it was from there where I worked with them for about, I believe, 3.5 years, to then sort of taking the plunge to say, right, it's time to get away from this. I'm very much, look, I'm all for everything. The moment I feel that it's a negative situation, I don't like being in negative situations. I don't like being around nonsense either, and if you are going to be sort of contributing to negativity or nonsense situations or office politics, I really don't like getting involved in that kind of stuff. But I just step away from that. There comes a time where I go, I can't do this anymore, because there's nothing challenging about all these little sort of niggly negative sort of situations and mentality. You can't change people's mentality. You can't change people's attitude. You're in control of your own, but you're not in control of somebody else's, and it's not my right to try and change that for you. You've got to want that change. You've got to identify if it recalls or that change. But yeah, so that's when I sort of stepped away from there. So yeah, those, I'd say it's pretty tough for those 4, maybe 5 years of my life. Really, really testing times. But yeah, so Val might have looked like she went into hibernation, but she knew her time was coming. I was just being patient.
I suppose that goes into why you said that one of your keys to success was patience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I knew it. I just had to wait for it.
Yeah.
It's like when your birthday's coming up. And you're so excited. And it's your birthday. You know what day it's going to be on, what day it's going to land on. Okay? But you've got to be patient.